1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 8.
What are you looking at? What are you looking at? You want a kissy?
Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Huskyfoot Ninja at Huskyfoot Gaming, and I'm here to bring a video to talk about the patch 1.4 for The Division, because we know everyone was running away from The Division because it was turning into a giant shithole like Destiny did. I'm just kidding, I love Destiny. I'm just kidding again, I'm not sure how I feel about Destiny, but let's forget about that and let's jump into this. One of the first things I want to talk about is the enemies. The AI is way better now. The enemies die faster. That whole bullet sponge thing that we were all getting bored of, you know, just sitting there and spraying and make sure you just have your reticle over their head or their body and they'll die eventually. Got boring. There wasn't much to it. The AI is smarter now. They reduced the time to kill for non-player enemies all the way across the board, from the cleaners to the LMB to the Rikers. So at launch, you just sat there and you shot them. Now the enemies actually move around a ton. They die faster, and they actually do tactics. They try to surround you and actually make you think. So instead of sitting there and just watching them run towards you and then they run back, there have been times where I'm shooting, I'm taking some of them out in the front, and all of a sudden I'm getting shot in the back, and it's like, holy, and I spin around and I go to shoot them, and the enemies behind me, they just take off running because they're going to go find a new position. And then when you're dealing with them, the enemies on the other side of you are also finding a new position, so you always got to keep moving, you always got to keep thinking. I think one of the biggest problems with The Division patch 1.3 was trying to gear up and progress through the story, because the enemies were so hard to kill, and it was so hard to get gear because the loot system and the drop system was totally fucked, and it was really hard to solo. And so if you went into a matchmaking group, half the time they'd kick you out because they didn't think you had a sufficiently high enough gear score. Now Ubisoft has introduced the world tier system, so you can go into world tier 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you pick on your own discretion. If you go into tier 1, the enemies are level 30, and they reward you the gear score of 163. If you go into tier 2, the enemies are level 31, and they reward you with a gear score of 182. And it unlocks the challenging difficulty for the missions and also the incursions. If you go into tier 3, the enemies are level 32, and they reward you with a gear system of 204. And then if you go into tier 4, the enemies are the max level enemies can be right now, and that's level 33. And they'll give you max gear score items at 229. Now, if you go into a mission in World Tier 4 and you only set it at hard difficulty, you'll still get 229 gear. But if you were to do it on challenging, not only depending on how many people you have in your group, will the boss fights in some of them change, they will actually drop you better quality level 229 gear, weapons, or armor. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I kind of missed out there, was the game will also scale, depending on what tier you're in, on how many people are in your party. So if you go into a mission, and you have 4 people, and one guy's a jackass and he drops out, and there's 3 of you, instead of having the 3 of you pick up a person's slack, the game will actually level itself out to as if there was only 3 people. So the enemies, health and the difficulty of the enemies will go down or up depending on if people come in or go out, and it's pretty awesome. So with that being said, the game now is really, it's built around for anyone to play now, solo players or team players. You can get gear from everything now. There's no specific gear drop on any specific mission or incursion. Everything drops, all the gear depending on your tier level and on your difficulty level. So you pick what you want to get now, assuming you can play in those tiers. The Dark Zone, though, the enemies are still scaled to you depending on what world tier you go into, but you still have the other players. So if you go in there and you're killing bosses and you're getting your gear, and the good gear too, because you can get 229 gear now all over the Dark Zone. You can get all sorts of gear, set pieces, weapons, mods, everything. And you go to extract them, and then someone kills you and takes it, and if you get pissed off about that, that's your own fault, because the Dark Zone is still built for PvP, and it always will be. So it's, you go in there with 4 guys, or you're asking for punishment. One thing you want to look out for in patch 1.4 is coming into it and thinking that the build you had in patch 1.3 is going to be sufficient for 1.4, because they tweaked a lot of the gear sets now. And Firecrest gear set, they've actually outright changed. So you no longer get that really quick reload speed. So your DPS is probably going to drop if that's what you were counting on. They've tweaked all the firearm classes now. SMGs are no longer on top. Assault rifles have been changed. LMGs have been buffed. Shotguns are getting, you know, the respect that they deserve that I was hoping for. Everything, even sidearms. So you should really check those things out when you get into 1.4. One thing I want to touch on is the skills and the signature skills. The healing ones in particular. When you pop that heal and you get that healing cloud, before in 1.3 you could run back and forth in it, and you can get that first heal and then you run out of it and run back in, you get a second heal and then the overheal. Well, now they've taken that out. You can only actually get 1 heal from it, and your party can only get 1 heal from it also. But the signature healing skill has been buffed, so if you use it, it will actually heal dead members and not just downed members back to life. And if you're playing solo and you go down and then you get killed, it'll auto trigger and bring you back to life. One of the big changes they did is with the chat. They've actually taken out the proximity chat now, so if you're in the Dark Zone and you're playing and you speak into your mic, the guys beside you can't hear you anymore, and your party actually can't hear you anymore. You actually physically have to make a game chat or a party chat on your Xbox or on console anyways. And the reason why they did this, what I've heard, is because it was lagging the servers. And if you were in the Dark Zone in 1.3, the Dark Zone was laggy. Like, you'd go in, it seemed like your frame rate was kind of shitty, but apparently it was the proximity chat that was bogging it down. And since they've taken that out, since I've gotten my hands on 1.4, it has smoothed right out, and it just feels amazing. Anyway, guys, those are just a few of my thoughts on a few of the changes in the Division patch 1.4. If you were a few of those players that kind of ran away from it because you weren't happy with the loot system, the drop system, the progression system, or just the game in general, I'd seriously just give it a second chance. It's totally worth it. Ubisoft's put a ton of work into it. I think it's going in a positive direction. And if you haven't actually checked it out or even played it, I suggest just checking a review out online for patch 1.4, picking the game up and popping it in and just trying it. But yeah, if you like my video, drop a like, throw a comment in there, maybe subscribe. I appreciate all the help and support in the world. Thank you. Have a good day.